Thank you, colleagues. Greetings. My name is Brian Morales, and this is the Global Coalition to Address Synthetic Drug Threats, Subworking Group 1.2. This is the April session. I'm going to go through some slides here. You should see the title slide. And then after these administrative announcements, we'll move quickly into today's session. We're going to talk about the meeting schedule, the website, initiatives, and measures to adopt, and the recommendations. So first, I want to begin by thanking you for your valued partnership and participation over the past months. This has been quite a packed few months with meetings, and we appreciate your endurance. The synthetic drug challenges we are finding are just growing day by day. Including in these past months of the coalition's work. We continue to see the emergence of new synthetic drugs and their rapid spread. We have now seen also countries that are moving toward or have declared national emergencies, including one a couple weekends ago in the country of Sierra Leone, where the president declared national emergency on a synthetic drug called Kush. So we are concerned. We have seen redoubled efforts at the CND. Now the issue of synthetic drugs is being discussed and spoken like never before. I participated in CND. It was just amazing to hear how many delegations are both referencing the Global Coalition and also the urgency of addressing synthetic drugs through their national statements, through the 2 coalition meetings that we had, a general catch-up and one for donor coordination, and through side events as well that we heard throughout the CND. Here's one chart that I took from a report that was presented in a side event at the CND by the Global Initiative on Transnational Organized Crime. And between the years of 21 to 23, illicit synthetic drug markets have increased in severity in all the countries in red and remained about the same in the ones in orange. So the situation is about the same or getting worse in the world, with very few countries actually improving when it comes to this issue. The urgency is there. We are currently in the phase of action planning and implementation from the months of April to July. You can find this on our website, this calendar. And in this period, we are going to be looking at, through the guidance of co-chairs, to have monthly meetings that are focused on sharing national experiences. If you are interested in presenting your national experience, please follow this form. I'm going to ask our colleague Sarah Finmore to post it in the chat, and we are happy to try to accommodate you or ask for a recording if we have too many requests. We also are going to look at continued discussions on global initiatives, also the engagement of other sectors. For working group 3, perhaps civil society; for working group 1, perhaps private sector. And then also, if there is extra time, workshops or training opportunities for coalition participants. But if there's not time, then we could also look for external opportunities to make some of these available for coalition participants who are interested in receiving training. Now, I want to share with you that we have recommendations, currently 60 of them, that we need your input on. And today we are going to be looking at the ones for subworking group 1.2, and we intend to finalize them by the end of the session. The idea will be that these recommendations will lead to actions. These actions can also be seen as adopting measures or activities. And we are going to be asking all of you participants to demonstrate those actions in the coming weeks and months in support of the coalition recommendations. Now, you might ask, what is an action, or what is a measure that I can take? Well, one example would be the international organization initiatives. We have 115 of them currently, and I will show you in a minute what that looks like and where you can find those. A second might be bilateral or international organization support that could either be financial or in-kind assistance that your country might provide. Another might be adopting a new practice, a policy, a regulation, or a law. Another action might be considering engagement and collaboration with the private sector, or another sector for that matter. And finally, you might consider hosting a regional or a global meeting that is a coalition meeting or in support of the coalition goals on a thematic area of interest to you. These are all different actions that you can take in support of the coalition's work. What are we going to do with these actions? Well, these actions we are now identifying in the month of April, and beginning in the month of April over the coming months. And the international initiatives will begin their activities between the months of April to August. That's that list of 115 that I'm going to show you in a moment. The goal is to start identifying achievements from all of these different actions that your country will take. And we will prepare a report, a year one report, that will showcase all of the accomplishments of the coalition that have started since July 2023, when the coalition began. And the hope would be that we could produce that report and share it in time for the UN General Assembly in September. In October and onward, we will then work through the international organizations to continue carrying out those projects. And hopefully by the second year, we will have outcomes that we can start showcasing also in a year two report. So where are the initiatives? Here is our website. There is the initiatives link. When you click on that, you will see the listing of the different initiatives. Let's take one, for example. If we click on one, here's INCB's PICS, Precursor Incident Communication System. You could see different project activities, what the outcomes are, which countries are participating. If your country is participating, but you are not yourself and are interested, you could still email the email address. You see it up there under contact, and you can ask to be enrolled or to participate in the activities. I want to caveat that for some of the initiatives where more in-depth work is necessary, there may or may not be funding available. And so that is something that we can take back to the community of donors and see if we can make resources available if the demand exceeds the ability of international organizations to support the work. Now I want to end on sharing that there is a new website feature that I would also like to invite you to participate in. Registration emails have been sent to participate in the coalition discussion board. If you have not received an email, please email us at syntheticdrugs@state.gov, and we will provide you with the registration email. You will see a login section at the upper right-hand corner of the website. When you click on that, you will enter username and create a password. And that will take you to, again, upper right. You have a place where you can create your profile, add your photograph. You will see also a community section. And if you click on that community section, you will be able to add a banner, your photograph. You will be able to provide your profile information, and you will be able to then see the sub-working groups that you are free to register for, as many as you would like. If you click on one, for example, let's go for 2.2 here. You will see that it's a news feed, as you would see in a social media site. You can say something to the group, add images or documents. And here's one that I posted about a week ago, the national health emergency that I referenced in Sierra Leone. And you will see that you can write a comment. You will see that I had a comment there from our friend Donald mentioning the President Bio of Sierra Leone's health emergency that was declared. And so this is a way that we can share, express interest, ask questions. In this case, we're going to be engaging our partners in Sierra Leone to see how best we can collaborate through the spirit of the coalition. Now I'd like to move to the recommendation phase, by which I will then turn it over to our co-chairs to lead us in today's session. And I want to, before turning it over, just share that today we are finalizing our recommendations, and I encourage you all to comment as we go through them, or to also share comments and ideas in the chat. We're going to stop the recording when we get to the discussion phase, so not the reading, but the discussion phase of all of these. And I want to share that we will also caveat on our website and in the document, the formal document, the disclaimer or the text that you see in bold there on the screen, and I will read it. The recommendations herein are non-binding and for future government consideration where appropriate. They reflect the views of technical experts participating in the global coalition and do not reflect a consensus of governments or a single national position. We all participate in, CNDs and these kind of events. This is not a resolution. This is not a formally negotiated document to reflect a national position. Your countries are not sort of held to having to adopt all of these recommendations. These are just indicative of what technical experts from governments have reflected, and countries are free to adopt as many of these as they wish. So with that, I will now turn it over to our co-chairs, Anthony Conway and Asili Nadolo, to go through the readings. I will move my presentation to the recommendations for 1.2 and just share that all of 4 of them are on this slide. Once they've been read, I will ask, or our co-chairs can ask for the recording to stop. And then at that point, we will have a discussion of the 4. So I will turn it over to our co-chairs now. Thank you so much.
Thanks very much, Brian. And again, thank you to you and your team for all the wonderful support leading the Global Coalition. I've had an opportunity to explore the updated website, and I think the functionality within the discussion board is very valuable for participating countries and their representatives to engage in some real great conversations and share experiences outside of these monthly meetings. What I'm going to do now is read through each of the 5 finalised recommendations for sub-working group 1.2, trafficking of synthetic drugs. The first is conduct reoccurring global interdiction operations targeting illicit manufacturing of synthetic drugs, diversion and trafficking of chemical precursors and essential drug manufacturing equipment, trafficking organisations and their proceeds across all regions of the world. The second is assess and utilise automated website scraping technology to search for the sale of synthetic drug chemicals and equipment across the internet, with a view to providing actionable intelligence to law enforcement where appropriate and in accordance with national legislation and regulations, and fully respecting fundamental rights and data protection. The third is to train law enforcement to investigate use of virtual payment providers and cryptocurrencies to facilitate illicit drug trafficking, including of synthetic drugs and its precursors. And the final is to conduct reoccurring capacity building training and global operations targeting border security, port security, and air security issues, focusing on current work surrounding canines, aircraft monitoring, and synthetics in postal mail. So I open it up to the group now. So feel free to make any comments regarding any of those recommendations, either orally or in the chat functionality.
That'd be great.
Look, I welcome Mr. David Corntar, the Assistant Director of Interpol Criminal Networks. David's actually going to do 2 presentations or speak to 2 topics today. The first being a global Interpol operation that's being planned for 2024. He will also be presenting on the Interpol relief database. David, thanks very much for your time, and I hand over to you. Thank you.
David, you're muted if you're trying to speak. Now you're not muted, but we still cannot hear you.
David, this is Henki, technical moderator. Could you check on the microphone at the bottom left of your Zoom screen and make sure that you select the corresponding or the correct audio system that you are currently using. You might want to change whatever you have now.
So funny because I know audio was working for David before. Tech issues can be the worst. Sorry, David. Hope we can get you back soon.
I'll go ahead and send him a message on WhatsApp as well, just to make sure he can at least hear.
Yeah, I know we're all really excited to hear it. So let's just give it a few moments to get the tech going, and then we'll figure it out from there.
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yes. Hi, David.
Hey, I had to do it from my phone here for some odd reason. So let me close out of the computer, and I'll just be working off the phone if that's okay.
Absolutely.
Okay, great. I can see my slides there. So first off, good morning, good afternoon. My name's Dave Conter. I'm the Assistant Director for Interpol Criminal Networks. Effectively, that's our drugs and organized crime programs at Interpol. And over the next 15, 20 minutes, as Anthony said, I'm going to talk to you about a couple different things. One, how we see Interpol's role as sort of a neutral implementing law enforcement partner in the fight against synthetic drugs. Give you an overview of some of our key tools that we use that are going to be available for the coalition. That's our notice system, our relief database, and then really talk about sort of what our action plan is, which is to organize a global lionfish operation later this year in Q3. Of course, bringing together all members of the coalition, our 196 member countries of Interpol, to really have this global action against transnational organized crime groups that are involved in synthetic drugs. So with that, my first slide, please. So, Interpol's an international law enforcement organization, of course, based in Lyon. But as you can see on this map, we have quite a global spread with regional offices in Central and South America, as well as Africa and in Asia. But the key here is also our engagement on the with our international organization partners, if that's in the UN or at the EU or Europol. So that's one of our key sort of features, that even though we're a law enforcement agency, we want to be working across all the different organizations. Next slide. So we have 4 key programs at Interpol, as you can see here: counterterrorism, cybercrime, organized emerging crime, and financial crime and anti-corruption. The reason I show this slide is one of the things that we're really trying to do is work across all these different crime areas. Unfortunately, in law enforcement, I think we're inherently siloed, and that's something that we're really trying to address, is make sure that we take this transversal approach when we look at running an operation, and also doing our day-to-day work. And I think when we talk about synthetic drugs, it cuts across all 4 of these crime areas. If you talk about the Captagon trade in the Middle East with counterterrorism, the cybercrime piece, a lot of synthetic drugs are being purchased and sold through the internet. You also have the cryptocurrency piece, and then the proceeds of crime, right? These criminal organizations are 100% for profit. They're looking, as I said, to maximize their profit, minimize their risk, diversify their holdings, and then look for emerging markets. And I think that's what makes synthetic drugs quite attractive for these criminal organizations. Next slide. So data is one of the key tools to fight crime on sort of a global level. We have to get countries to share information, and knowledge becomes the key to sort of factor there. The more data that's shared, the better intelligence picture we have, which allows us to dedicate our resources in the various areas. And as you can see, there's just a vast amount of data that's coming across through the Interpol systems. There's 19 different databases, and I'll talk about the relief database in a second. But as you can see, there are 141 million records. This slide is a couple weeks old, so the numbers are even higher. But as I said, we want to make sure we're not working in silos. And as all this data comes into our systems, our analysts and our investigators are able to search across all the various different things, from stolen motor vehicles to parcel flows, and then also working with our international partners, if that's the INCB or UNODC. Next slide. So our notice system, that's another key tool. Of course, a lot of people know about the red notice or notice for wanted people. I think that'll play a key role in support of the coalition as we look to try to arrest some of these criminal actors that were responsible for the global synthetic drug trade. But the other key here is the purple notice, and this is effectively alerts member countries to a new smuggling method, a new synthetic drug threat, a new modus operandi being utilized by these criminal organizations, and that's what we really want to see member countries in support of the coalition use the purple notice as a tool to get the information out to the other countries. Notices go out to all 196 member countries. They're published at the request of a member country, and then it's validated by my team. This is something that over the last year to 18 months, we're seeing member countries publish more and more purple notices related to synthetic drug threats, as that is such a ever-changing market as new substances and analogs come into the system. Next slide. So the way we align things when we talk about Interpol's response against illicit drugs, or IRAID for short, this is our 6-year program. It's a brand new programmatic strategy where we're really looking across 4 key pillars: operations and analysis, capacity building and training, partnership and outreach, and targeting the proceeds of crime. And I think something we haven't been doing as well as we could have is really going after those profits, identifying how these organizations are laundering their proceeds, because ultimately this business is driven by profit. You can also see here some of the other key tools, if that's our lionfish operations, which I'll talk to in more detail, but also mapping of criminal organizations, identifying new synthetic drug threats, our relief database, our criminal analysis file. That's where we keep our secure law enforcement data. And then we also produce operational analysis reports, or OARs, which are tailored law enforcement reports using the data that comes in from the member countries. And then we also have the ability to provide direct action operational case support, which we can deploy operational support teams to assist member countries following a seizure or in support of an ongoing operation. Next slide. So with that, we'll kind of pivot into the relief database. This is a really unique capability that Interpol has. As you can see on the slide, this was developed by the Czech Republic. It was gifted to Interpol in 2019. And the system effectively uses AI to create a unique map of the surface of press drugs. And then it is automatically searched against the other entities, similar to facial recognition or a ballistic match. If you can see the image of the ecstasy tablet, there are colored circles, and those are unique data points that are imprinted onto the surface when those two ecstasy pills were made from the dye. And so that's the system matches in two different ways. One is on tool marks, as you can see in the picture at the top, and then the other one, which were quite effective using it against cocaine, is a logo match. So the system is actually measuring the various data points on the stamp. We have about 500 users and growing. We have a team in Australia and New Zealand this week. And we have about 39 active countries. Of course, as part of the coalition, we'd like to see that increase. But what we're quite proud of is our hit rate is just about 41%, which is significant for a law enforcement database. Next slide, please. So here's a current snapshot from the system of the cases. As you can see, it's very heavily focused in South America and Europe, but West Africa is becoming, we're starting to see more and more entries and data being driven to the database. And what we really want to see as part of the coalition and potentially during our lionfish operation is to get this capability in the hands of the participating countries and really see its use increase across Central Asia and of course in Asia, the Pacific region, and Eastern and Southern Africa, as well as North America. Next slide. So how does it work? It's pretty simple. One great part of this is it's web-based, so you don't need access to an Interpol terminal. It can be granted to the national authorities, and effectively all you need is a camera and access to the database. So as you can see here, this is simulated for a brick of cocaine, but it would work the same for a kilo of fentanyl or ecstasy tablet. So we instruct the country on how to unwrap the packaging without damaging the surface of the brick. The brick is then, or tablet is then placed into a forensic box, which has a light source, as you can see in picture 3, from either side, and then a ruler as well. And that allows the rulers there so that the software can scale the image. And then a photograph is taken by the investigator, by the forensic lab, and then uploaded into the database, which you can see. As I said, it's web-based, so we can give it to frontline investigators. Next slide. And so the workflow is pretty simple. Starts with the seizure. The investigator or the forensic lab would then take a photograph of the substance. It is then uploaded into the relief database and searched by the investigator. The investigator will get a series of possible matches. So similar to a fingerprint, it's up to the investigator to confirm that it's a hit. You will get two different, or you'll get multiple samples. The system allows you to capture the comparative image and manipulate it on the screen. And then once a hit is generated, that will start a series of notifications. So the owner of both images, so that the one that's currently being uploaded and the one that's held into the system will get notified. And then the respective NCBs, Interpol NCBs, National Central Bureaus, will also get notified. And then lastly, the Interpol Drugs Unit. So this allows us to follow up with the member countries, have our analysts reach out to make sure that we have the corresponding intelligence behind the seizure, and try to see how we can link these cases together. One thing on the database, there's no nominal data, so it's just place of seizure, date of seizure, how much was seized, and then some sort of reference number and contact for the investigator. So there's no sensitive police data stored onto the relief database. Next slide. So this is our first fentanyl match. Really great investigation. The two images, as you can see with the McDuck logo, that's a tool mark match, as you can see by the colored dots. They were seized on a case in Phoenix, Arizona by the US DEA. And then we, working with the Mexican authorities, we were able to find the corresponding plate, as you can see on the screen, which was seized out of a lab in Sinaloa, Mexico, and it's an exact match. Fentanyl is actually the perfect sample because unlike cocaine, which is pressed wet and the surface dries over time, fentanyl is pressed dry. And it actually gives you very clean logos. So we're pretty excited about deploying this tool on a sort of large scale on the fight against fentanyl. And then, as you can see, also it'll work on the tablets, the fake M30s that we're seeing. A little more challenging to get a match. These criminal organizations are using very precise dies, but we do see some variance of the shape of the M and also the 30. The font that's being used is not exact, so we are able to get a match there. Next slide. So that's it for sort of the relief piece. And now I'm just going to briefly talk about what our plan is for a global operation, or what we refer to as a lionfish operation. Next slide. So lionfish operation is a short-term proven model that Interpol uses to really target drug trafficking at the sea, land, and air. We work together with member countries to do a short-term operation somewhere in the neighborhood between typically 2 to 5 weeks. And I'll kind of go through the different steps there. But I did want to just highlight our last lionfish operation from June of 2022. As you can see, only 22 countries participated, but the results were significant. Over 1,300 arrests, 35 tons of illicit drugs, but 291 tons of chemical precursors, as you can see here. And I always try to take drug trafficking and put a value to it. And we seized almost $750 million US dollars worth of drugs in a short 4-week operation. And one sort of reason, or one idea that we had to do a lionfish operation in support of the coalition is in Lionfish 5. We still saw that traditional drugs like cocaine were king, but compared to previous lionfish operations, synthetic drugs occupied a much larger share than they ever had in the past. So it really does speak to the increase in popularity of these various synthetic drugs. Next slide. So, as I said here, we have this opportunity in Interpol to organize a global lionfish operation. Of course, we will ask for the participation of the coalition members to conduct a short-term 5-week global operation. We hope to execute this in Q3. And we want to really bring to bear the full use of all Interpol tools, if that's our notice system, our relief database, et cetera, but also working with our various international partners and our member countries. We want to use all the tools available, if that's Ionics or PICS, to really create the best intelligence picture that we have. We also look to produce actionable results, right? Seizures, arrests, increase in intelligence sharing, and really filling in some of these intelligence gaps. And then, of course, we want to create some sustainability. We want to be able to replicate this model, maybe not every year on a global level, but at least on a regional and sub-regional level as well. Next slide. So to sort of conclude here, what does the lionfish operation look like? So we will identify 5 host locations across the different Interpol regions. So that's 1 in the Americas, Africa, Middle East, North Africa, Europe, and Asia. We will have participants from the Interpol National Central Bureaus, as well as the specialized drug units, customs, our international partners, INCB, the UPU, the WCO. As I said, we want to make this a very holistic view of what we're seeing on a sort of global level. In week 1, we will have an in-person pre-operational meeting. That's where we'll conduct capacity building. We will be trying to identify any intelligence gaps, and working with member countries on how to best implement the operation. In week 2, which will also be in person, we will stand up 5 regional operational command units. Those will be staffed by competent law enforcement authorities from the participating countries, and that will allow for real-time sharing of intelligence related to seizures, controlled deliveries, arrests, where the coalition members can work together to tackle synthetic drugs. And then following that, weeks 3 through 5, we have the participants return to their home countries, where we continue the operation remotely. We have effectively shift to a virtual command center, where we'll hold bi-weekly meetings, and we're sharing, we're asking countries to share sort of a daily activity report related to the seizures, where our analysts are then taking a look at that information, trying to connect the dots, looking for areas where we can add value. And then 4 weeks following the operation, we'll produce a pretty detailed operational analysis report with the results of the operation. In this case, we're going to do 2 versions, a public version, which can be shared, and then a law enforcement only version, which has some more sensitive data. And then the key here is really bringing together all the countries at the global level, looking for those intelligence gaps, identifying new synthetic drug threats, as well as highlighting the different smuggling routes and methods used by these criminal organizations, all the while looking to disrupt and dismantle the proceeds of crime. And then following the operation, we hope to conduct a post-operational debrief in person late sort of Q4 2024, where we can bring all the coalition members together again to discuss the way forward, because this problem is continuing to evolve. Criminal organizations are continuing to adapt, and this, I think, adopting this model will give us an agile platform to be able to address this threat. And I think that's the end of my presentation. Happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thanks very much, David, for your presentation. Look, first of all, in relation to the relief database, I can confirm from an Australian perspective, we've got some members from Interpol out at the moment training our forensic staff in the relief database, and we're looking forward to getting access and uploading information and the data needed. So thanks for that. My question relates to the lionfish operation for Q3 this year. With regard to command and control, you talked about these command units. Will there just be one central command for the 5 proposed host areas, or will you have sort of forward command posts in each of those locations?
So, yeah, no, thank you. Yes, we would have 5 command posts operating simultaneously. We will have Interpol staff deployed to each location. And then as best we can, we try to link all 5 of those command centers up daily. Of course, a little challenging sometimes with the time zones, but we're pretty effective in linking up linking up the various command posts simultaneously.
And should global coalition participation countries be interested in getting involved in this year's lionfish operation, how do they go about letting your team know of their interest, and how can they get involved in the pre-operation planning as early as possible?
Yes, I think I'll talk to Brian about that, how to get that onto the coalition website, and then also through the respective NCBs, the National Central Bureaus of Interpol. They will be able to reach out to us directly. We're right now in our pre-planning phase because we have a tight deliverable, but I hope in the coming weeks we'll have some clarity as to exact dates, and we'll get that information out to the coalition members.
Thanks, David. Any more questions for David?
I have a question. Yes, thank you, David, very much for the presentation. I first want to share that we will have an initiative in the menu where participants of the coalition can contact David or the individual or mailbox that he designates to express interest and participation, along with the formal channels of the Interpol points of contact. So at this point, I think if we're going to enter the discussion phase.